Hello to all of you at Virginia Water. I'm sorry that I can't be with you in person this time of year. Normally in May, I'd be travelling around and visiting some of the familiar churches that have been so supportive of the work of Arocha. And Virginia Water is one of those that I look forward to coming and visiting very much indeed. And I'm sorry that I can't be there to be with you and share this spring season with you at this time. But we continue to be grateful for your thoughts and prayers. We continue to be grateful for all those who are uplifting us as an organisation at a time that is challenging, to say the least, for those working in the environment sector and in many other sectors. The coronavirus is yet again, like climate change, a symptom rather than a cause of a bigger underlying problem. So in the next few minutes, I want to just review a little bit of the evidence around coronavirus, where I think things might be going, link that then into the journey on climate change, and then really renew the call to action. So let's start with corona, a microscopic virus that over the course of the last 5 months has managed to bring the planet to a standstill that has not been seen in several generations. You've got to go back to the 1800s to see something similar. And it has been remarkable walking the streets around our houses at rush hour time and seeing no cars. More remarkable still has been the silence of traffic and airplanes has been replaced by birdsong that normally seems to be absent. And of course, it's not that it is absent, it's that it's being drowned out by the noise of life, or the noise of humankind. And as pollution levels have fallen, so as we've looked up at the night skies, our night skies, particularly in towns and cities, have appeared brighter. The moon has appeared sharper, the stars, the pinpricks of light at night, are that much more defined. And this is particularly apparent in inner city towns and cities, where office lights have gone out to save money and electricity. And in some cases, night skies have been visible for the first time properly in a generation. And it's not just in the UK. Friends in India have reported seeing the Himalayas for the first time as they look north in 35 years. Birds that are ground nesters are finding that they are able to move back into places where dog walkers have stopped walking and where people have stopped trampling. And so there are legacy issues that are positive for the planet. But as I said, coronavirus is a symptom, not a cause. For many people, coronavirus has been absolutely devastating. For me personally, I have known a number of people who have lost their lives. We know partners and friends, churches and projects which are unlikely to survive in their current form after coronavirus has passed. And so this is a life-changing and defining moment for many, and we cannot underestimate the impact it will have. And yet, it is a symptom of a much greater problem that our planet faces. Assuming the science to be correct, coronavirus is likely to have started in a wet market in China, probably in a species of bat. Bats, like many species, are not designed to come into human contact and will carry many pathogens that shouldn't ever cross the barrier between bats and people. But once illegally traded in a marketplace, and in many cases consumed, or their products used illegally for medicine that really doesn't work, we then end up with a situation where pathogens jump barriers which were never intended for them to jump. We then end up with a situation where humans become infected with virulent pathogens that have not been seen on the planet before. If we continue to live the way we are doing, then it is highly likely that we will see further pathogens jumping the barrier between mammal species and humans. And if that happens, the next pathogen could be even worse than corona. There are parallels, though, with climate change, aren't there? Climate change is inherently a man-made crisis. It was avoidable. But unlike corona, there remains that sense that it is not an immediate crisis, it's not really urgent. Many people are not dying directly from climate change as yet. And yet the crisis is there. And unless we change our relationship with nature, unless we recognize who it is who is the author of creation, and unless we work collectively to do something about it, we will not only see more climate change and more pathogens, but at the end of the day, we may see the demise of a large number of people as a result in years to come. And that clearly is not of the interest of anybody. The financial implications will be untold. Corona will just be the first of many incidents in which mankind is attacked by nature for the way it has treated the planet. So, Virginia Water, you are part of something bigger and incredible. As we face the real loss of lives from coronavirus, as we face the reality of a climate change that continues unabated, the question to you, as is the question to all of us, is what am I going to do individually and as a church to make an incredible stand for Christ and his kingdom at this critical juncture? John 3:16 reminds us that God loved the cosmos. It reminds us that he gave his one and only Son for the whole of creation. If we are to be a people that live that out in reality, then we also need to be a people who now take risks for the kingdom and stand up to advance a new way of doing things. In a post-corona world, we need to walk more. We need to stop more. We need to be silent and reflect more. We need to have fewer meetings rather than more meetings. We need to stop and ask more questions. We need to look up more at the heavens and look down more at the small creatures making their living in our grass, in our gardens, in our pavements, in our parks, and even on our roads. We also need to ask bigger questions of our politicians and our leaders. We need to be willing to stand up on the streets, if necessary, and say we as a Christian community no longer accept business as usual. Measuring growth by gross domestic product is an inadequate measure of the future welfare of our planet. We need to find alternatives ways of measuring what success really looks like. We need to be prepared to write more letters. We need to be prepared to pick up the phone to politicians if necessary. We need to bother the people in power to say this is the time to change. We need to completely decouple growth with the fossil fuel industry. We need as a community to get rid of our petrol and diesel vehicles in the next few years and replace them with electrics if at all possible. We need to make sure that we are with green energy suppliers, whether in our church or at home. We need to make sure that we're not wasting water. We need to make sure that we are feeding the birds. We need to make sure that we're finding enough time just to love nature without trying to interpret it all the time. Now is a time for change. And in the remaining weeks of lockdown, we continue to have this unique opportunity to stop, to tarry, to think about what is it that Christ is calling us next to. so that when this lockdown does start to break and we start to go back to supposed business as usual, we as a faith community say, no, we want to change, and we want that change to last. We want a world in which there is justice for the climate, justice for the poor, and justice for wildlife worldwide, where the songs of the robin and the blackbird and the willow warbler and the chiffchaff and the nightingale are heard loudly and more stridently, not just in these months, but in the years to come. That nature sings because we are prepared to make sacrifice to save it. This is our time. How we behave in the next few months will most likely dictate the future for our children, our grandchildren, and the species that inhabit this planet. May God bless you at this critical time. May you be inspired and filled with hope, and may you grasp the opportunity that is before you.